7 brain exercises that will change your life. Practice gratitude daily. When we talk about exercises for the brain, the first thing that often comes to mind is puzzles, memory games, or learning new skills. But let me tell you something far more powerful. The most transformative exercise for your brain is gratitude. Gratitude is not just an emotion, it is a discipline, a conscious practice that rewires the brain from scarcity to abundance, from despair to hope, from pain to strength. Every morning when you wake up, your brain begins its work before you even step out of bed. It gathers thoughts, emotions, and expectations for the day. For many of us, the first thoughts are filled with complaints about the alarm ringing too early, the weather being too hot or too cold, the responsibilities waiting for us. And in those very first moments, we are already training the brain to see lack, to see heaviness, to see burden. But imagine if you could shift that pattern. Imagine if, instead of complaints, your first thoughts were words of gratitude. Thank you for this new day. Thank you for the chance to try again. Thank you for the breath in my lungs. When you start your day with gratitude, your brain begins to scan the world differently. Neuroscience tells us that gratitude activates the brain's reward center, releasing dopamine and serotonin, the very chemicals that create happiness. But beyond science, gratitude activates the soul, reminding you that no matter how little you may think you have, you already have enough. Gratitude is like light. It may start as a small candle, but it has the power to illuminate even the darkest rooms of your mind. And the beauty of gratitude is that it does not ask for perfection, it only asks for awareness. You don't have to wait for something extraordinary to happen to feel grateful. You can begin with the simplest gifts, the smile of a loved one, the comfort of a cup of tea, the ability to see, to hear, to breathe. What you acknowledge with gratitude grows in value. What you ignore with ingratitude fades away. Many people ask, but how can I be grateful when my life is full of struggles? And I understand that question deeply, because life can be unkind, unpredictable, and unfair. But gratitude does not mean denying your pain. It means seeing the blessing hidden within the pain. It means recognizing that even in the worst days, there are still reasons to whisper thank you. Perhaps the struggle itself is shaping you into someone stronger. Perhaps the delay is saving you from something unseen. Gratitude is not blindness. It is vision. It is seeing what is still good while walking through what is still hard. The practice of gratitude is like watering a plant. At first, it may not seem like much. You write down 3 things you are grateful for, and you wonder if it will make any difference. But day after day, as you continue, you notice a shift. The plant begins to grow. The roots become stronger. The leaves begin to bloom. Your brain starts to change. Instead of defaulting to negativity, it learns to search for reasons to be thankful. Instead of focusing on what is missing, it begins to celebrate what is present. This shift does not just affect your mind, it affects your heart, your body, and your relationships. A grateful person walks differently, speaks differently, and lives differently. Gratitude softens your anger, heals your disappointments, and humbles your pride. It teaches you that nothing is too small to celebrate, and nothing is too big to survive. It is the exercise that makes your brain not just sharper, but also kinder, more resilient, more alive. Think about the times when you have been with someone who radiates gratitude. They may not have the best of everything, but they carry an energy that makes you feel at peace. Why? Because gratitude is contagious. When you practice it, you not only transform your own brain, you inspire others to do the same. You become a mirror, reflecting back the beauty of life even in its brokenness. And so the first brain exercise that will truly change your life is not complex, not expensive, not hidden. It is simple. Speak gratitude daily. Write it. Whisper it. Feel it. Let it be the first thought when you open your eyes and the last when you close them at night. Your brain will thank you. Your heart will thank you. And your life will slowly, beautifully shift from surviving to living, from emptiness to fullness, from darkness to light. Affirm positive self-talk. The second brain exercise that can truly change your life is the practice of positive self-talk. You see, we all live with a voice inside our head, a voice that never stops speaking. It is the voice that narrates our lives, that interprets what we see, that comments on what we do. And sadly, for most people, that inner voice is more of a critic than a cheerleader. It points out your flaws. It reminds you of your failures. It compares you to others, and it tells you, you're not enough. Now here is the truth: that voice shapes the way you live. Your brain does not differentiate much between what others say to you and what you say to yourself. If you constantly tell yourself that you are weak, your brain will accept it as truth. If you repeatedly say you are not worthy, your brain will build its patterns around that belief. Self-talk is not just words, it is programming. And every morning, every moment, you are programming your brain, either towards destruction or towards growth. Positive self-talk is not about pretending that everything is perfect. It is not about lying to yourself or denying reality. No, it is about choosing words that empower you instead of words that imprison you. It is about affirming your worth even when you feel broken, reminding yourself of your strength even when you feel weak, and declaring your hope even when life feels hopeless. The brain listens to repetition. What you say once, it might dismiss. What you say daily, it begins to believe. Think about a child learning to walk. The child stumbles, falls, and gets back up again. What does the parent say? You can do it. Try again. Keep going. These words create courage in the child's heart. Now imagine if the parent said, "You'll never get it. You're too weak. Just stay down." The child's journey would be crushed before it even begins. In the same way, your inner voice can either nurture you like a loving parent or destroy you like a ruthless critic. The choice is yours. Every morning, stand before the mirror and look into your own eyes. Speak words of life into yourself. I am enough. I am worthy. I am strong. I am learning. I am growing. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, even silly. You might laugh at yourself or doubt the power of such small sentences. But slowly, something begins to change. Your reflection no longer looks like a stranger. It looks like a friend. Your brain no longer feels like an enemy. It feels like an ally. Remember, the world already has enough voices telling you what you cannot do, what you do not deserve, what you should not dream of. Do not let your own voice join that crowd. Be the voice that lifts you when the world pulls you down. Be the voice that reminds you of your light when the world only points to your shadows. Science supports this too. Research shows that positive affirmations activate the brain's reward pathways, increasing motivation and resilience. But beyond science, positive self-talk creates an unshakable foundation for your spirit. When storms come, and they will, you will need that voice inside you to whisper, "It's hard, but I can get through this." When doubts rise, you will need that voice to remind you, "I have survived worse. I will rise again." You see, self-talk is not just about confidence. It is about survival. It is about refusing to let your mind become your battlefield. It is about reclaiming your power from the words that once broke you. Many of us grew up hearing words that wounded us. You're not smart enough. You're not beautiful enough. You'll never succeed. Those words left scars. But here's the miracle: the brain can heal. And one of the ways it heals is through new, affirming, empowering words that you consciously feed it. So make it a daily practice. Each morning, each evening, each time you catch yourself speaking harshly, pause, breathe, and reframe. Instead of saying, "I failed," say, "I learned." Instead of, "I can't," say, "I will try." Instead of, "I'm not good enough," say, "I am growing into my best." These small shifts create new neural pathways, teaching your brain to move from fear to courage, from defeat to hope. And remember, the way you talk to yourself sets the standard for how others talk to you. If you constantly belittle yourself, you silently give others permission to do the same. But when you honor yourself with words of respect and love, you teach the world how you deserve to be treated. Positive self-talk is not just self-love, it is self-leadership. It is showing your brain the path you wish to walk, and then walking it one word at a time. Learn something new. One of the most powerful exercises you can ever give to your brain is the decision to keep learning. To remain a student of life, no matter how old you are, no matter how much you already know, no matter how much you think you have achieved. The brain, like a muscle, grows stronger when it is challenged. And the greatest challenge you can give it is to step outside the familiar and invite the unfamiliar. But here is the tragedy: too many of us stop learning after school, after a degree, after landing a job. We tell ourselves, "That's enough. I know what I need to know." And from that moment, we stop growing. We allow our minds to become stagnant ponds instead of flowing rivers. We forget that learning is not an event. It is a lifelong process. And the day you stop learning is the day your brain begins to age, not in years, but in spirit. Learning something new does not always mean enrolling in an expensive program or dedicating hours of study. Sometimes it means picking up a book that challenges your perspective. Sometimes it means learning a new word, a new language, or even a new recipe. It could mean practicing a new skill, like painting, playing an instrument, or writing poetry. It could even be as simple as asking questions instead of pretending to know all the answers. Every small act of learning creates new neural pathways in the brain. Each new connection strengthens your ability to adapt, to remember, to imagine. Think about a time when you learned something completely new. Do you remember the spark it gave you? That rush of excitement when you realized, I didn't know this yesterday, but I know it today. That is your brain celebrating growth. It thrives on novelty. It craves challenge. It comes alive when you feed it with fresh knowledge. And when you stop giving it new experiences, it begins to shrink into routine, into monotony, into sleep. I often say that life itself is the greatest classroom and every day is an opportunity to learn. Sometimes you learn from books. Sometimes you learn from people. And sometimes the hardest lessons come from pain. The failures you faced, the heartbreaks you survived, the disappointments that broke you. Each one carried wisdom, if only you were willing to learn. But the key is openness. A closed mind cannot learn. Only a mind that remains humble, curious, and receptive can truly grow. And let us not forget learning something new is also an act of courage. Because every time you learn, you admit that there are things you do not know. You let go of the illusion of perfection and step into the humility of being a beginner again. That is not easy in a world where everyone wants to appear smart, accomplished, and confident. But a true learner is not afraid of looking foolish. A true learner values growth more than pride. When you dedicate yourself to learning daily, your brain remains alive, young, and flexible. It doesn't matter if you're 18 or 80. When you are learning, your brain is evolving. You will notice how your conversations deepen, how your perspective widens, how your creativity blossoms. Because knowledge does not just fill the mind, it expands the soul. And here's the beautiful part: when you commit to learning, you inspire others to do the same. Think about it. If your children, friends, or colleagues see you reading, exploring, experimenting, they begin to believe that growth never ends. You become living proof that curiosity is timeless. You teach them that the mind has no expiry date, and that life is too vast to be limited by what we already know. The world around us is constantly changing. Technology evolves, societies transform, opportunities shift. If you are not learning, you are falling behind. But if you are learning, you are not only keeping up, you are staying ahead. You are giving your brain the exercise it needs to remain sharp, adaptable, and alive to possibility. So let me say this: learning something new every day is not a luxury. It is a responsibility you owe to yourself, to your brain, and to your future. Even if it is small, even if it seems insignificant, it matters. Because the brain does not count the size of the lesson. It celebrates the act of learning itself. Practice mindful silence in a world that glorifies noise, that celebrates busyness, and that constantly demands our attention. Silence can feel uncomfortable, even strange. We live surrounded by voices, voices from the outside and voices within. Notifications keep buzzing, screens keep flashing, and conversations keep rushing. And when we finally sit alone, what do? We reach for the phone, the television, the distraction. Because silence feels empty, and emptiness feels unbearable. But let me tell you something powerful: silence is not emptiness. Silence is not absence. Silence is presence. It is the most sacred space you can give your brain. It is the exercise that allows your mind to rest, reset, and recover. While the world tells you that silence is unproductive, the truth is that silence is one of the most productive things you can ever practice. Think about your brain for a moment. Every day it is bombarded with thousands of thoughts, decisions, and stimuli. It never stops processing, calculating, reacting. And yet how often do we allow it to simply breathe? Just as your body cannot run endlessly without rest, your brain cannot carry the weight of constant noise without breaking down. Mindful silence is the gift you offer to your brain. It is the pause that prevents burnout, the stillness that creates clarity, the calmness that nurtures creativity. Mindful silence is not simply the absence of sound. It is the act of being fully present with yourself without distraction. It could be sitting quietly in the morning with your breath. It could be closing your eyes for a few moments in the middle of a chaotic day. It could be walking in nature without headphones, without chatter, simply listening to the whisper of the wind or the rhythm of your own heartbeat. When you practice mindful silence, something magical happens. At first, your thoughts will grow louder. The worries, the unfinished tasks, the inner critic, all of them will try to fill the space. It may feel overwhelming, as though silence is amplifying your chaos. But if you remain patient, if you keep breathing through it, you begin to notice a shift. The thoughts start to settle like dust falling gently to the ground. The noise loses its urgency. And in that stillness, you begin to hear the voice that truly matters, the quiet, steady, wise voice within you. This is why silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is fullness of awareness, fullness of presence, fullness of truth. It is in silence that the greatest ideas are born. It is in silence that healing begins. It is in silence that the brain finds the space to connect dots, to create new patterns, to envision new possibilities. When you allow your brain the discipline of silence, you are not just resting it, you are empowering it. Our culture often tells us that value lies in words, in action, in doing more. But silence teaches us that value also lies in stillness, in listening, in simply being. The greatest leaders, the greatest thinkers, the greatest creators understood the importance of silence. They withdrew from noise not to escape the world, but to understand it more deeply. They created space in their minds so that wisdom could enter, so that clarity could rise, so that strength could return. And silence is not only a gift for the brain, it is also a gift for the soul. In silence, you reconnect with yourself. You notice your emotions, your wounds, your desires. You face the parts of yourself that you usually cover with noise. It may feel uncomfortable, but it is profoundly healing. Because only in silence can you truly meet yourself without masks, without distractions, without pretense. Think about how many times we avoid silence because we are afraid of what we might find. We fear the loneliness, the sadness, the unresolved pain. But when you sit with silence long enough, you realize that it does not break you, it builds you. It gives you the courage to face what is within and the wisdom to transform it. Silence does not weaken you, it strengthens you in ways noise never could. Even science affirms this truth. Studies show that silence can regenerate brain cells, reduce stress, and enhance memory. But beyond science, silence regenerates your spirit. It teaches you patience. It teaches you presence. It teaches you to find peace not in the absence of storms, but in the calmness of your own breath. So make silence a daily practice. Create small islands of stillness in the sea of noise. Wake up 5 minutes earlier to sit in quiet reflection. Pause before you react, breathe before you speak, listen before you answer. Walk without rushing, sit without scrolling, breathe without distraction. Train your brain to embrace silence, and watch how it transforms not only your mind, but also your heart and your life. Choose optimism consciously. There is a saying that goes, "We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are." The lens through which you view the world shapes the reality you live in. And one of the most powerful choices you can make for your brain and for your life is the choice of optimism. Optimism is not about ignoring reality or pretending that pain does not exist. It is not about painting everything with bright colors while your heart bleeds inside. No, optimism is about perspective. It is about seeing storms as temporary, not permanent. It is about believing in possibilities when everything looks impossible. It is about training your brain to focus not on what you have lost, but on what you can still create. Life is full of challenges. Setbacks come without warning. People disappoint you. Dreams break. Health fails. Plans collapse. And in those moments, your brain can go in two directions: despair or hope. Despair whispers, "This is the end. There's nothing left." But optimism whispers, "This is not the end. This is a bend. There is something still waiting for you beyond this turn." Your brain listens to the voice you choose. If you allow despair to dominate, it will create hopelessness, paralysis, and fear. If you choose optimism, your brain will begin to release resilience, creativity, and courage. It is like two wolves living inside you, one of darkness, one of light. The one that grows stronger is the one you feed daily. And optimism is the daily meal of the wolf of light. But let us be honest, optimism is not easy. It requires conscious effort. The world is heavy with negativity. News channels thrive on fear. Social media magnifies comparison. People around us often complain more than they celebrate. In such an environment, pessimism comes naturally. It is easy to believe the worst. It is easy to give up. Optimism, on the other hand, requires discipline. It requires you to look for blessings even when surrounded by burdens, to find lessons even when standing in losses, to keep faith even when everything around you shakes. Optimism does not mean that everything will always work out the way you want. It means that you trust yourself to handle whatever comes your way. It means that even if life closes one door, you believe another will open. It means that even when things break, you believe that brokenness can still become beautiful. Optimism does not deny the darkness. It simply refuses to let the darkness define the whole story. Think about the people you admire most. Are they the ones who gave up when life was cruel? Or are they the ones who kept walking with hope, even when their path was filled with shadows? Optimists do not have fewer problems than others. They simply choose to interpret those problems differently. Where a pessimist sees the end of the road, an optimist sees a detour. Where a pessimist sees failure, an optimist sees feedback. where a pessimist sees loss, an optimist sees opportunity. And optimism is not only good for the soul, it is powerful for the brain. Research shows that optimistic people live longer, have lower stress levels, and enjoy better mental and physical health. Why? Because the brain, when filled with hope, releases chemicals that strengthen the immune system, calm anxiety, and improve decision-making. Optimism literally reshapes the brain to become stronger and more resilient. But how do you practice optimism daily? You start small. Each morning, set an intention to focus on what is good. Write down one thing you are looking forward to. When a setback comes, reframe it. Instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" Surround yourself with voices that uplift instead of voices that drain. And at the end of each day, count the blessings that remained, not just the burdens that appeared. These small, consistent acts train your brain to default toward hope instead of despair. And here is something beautiful: optimism is contagious. Just as negativity spreads like fire, so does hope. When you choose optimism, you do not only change your brain, you change the atmosphere around you. Your words become lighter, your presence becomes warmer, your energy becomes a source of strength for others. People who have lost their own hope borrow some of yours. You become a carrier of light in a world that often feels too dark. So, my dear friend, remember this. You cannot control the storms of life, but you can control the lens through which you see them. You cannot stop challenges from arriving, but you can decide how you will respond when they do. Optimism is not naive, it is powerful. It is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is not running from reality, it is running toward possibility. And if you train your brain each day to choose optimism, you will discover something extraordinary. Life may not always give you what you want, but it will always give you what you need to keep growing, to keep moving, and to keep shining. Because optimism does not change the circumstances, it changes you. And when you change, your whole life begins to change with you. At the end of the day, your brain is not just an organ, it is the canvas on which your entire life is painted. If you exercise it with gratitude, with kind words, with learning, with silence, and with conscious optimism, you will not only change the way you think, you will change the way you live. Remember, the mind is like a garden. What you water grows. So water it with hope, with strength, with positivity, and with love. And watch. Your life will bloom into something far greater than you ever imagined.